Now, if you look at geopolitical circles, you will see that many people are posting, commenting, and publishing articles on one particular issue, that the United States of America has recently floated a concept: why not create the world's most powerful group? The G7 is a group where most of the economies are now in decline. So why not create a group that can genuinely solve the world's problems head-on? A group that would be called C5. The members of this group would be the United States of America, the People's Republic of China, the Russian Federation, the Republic of India, and the Republic of Japan. These 5 countries together could form a new group called C5. Now, if you have a question here, what does the C stand for? We often hear of groups like G7 or G20. So what does C mean? Here, C means core. The word core means the inner part, the part that holds the real main power. On the surface level, there are many groups, right? But then there is an inner core that holds all the energy. So this is the concept of C5, a group that would have the US, China, India, Japan, and Russia. And you can see dozens of articles being published on this topic right now. The first article on this was published by Politico, which said that Trump had discussed this concept of C5. There had been conversations about it. This is not something that would suddenly come into existence overnight, but discussions around this concept have already begun among countries. Here you can see articles like how a new Russia-China-US network could work. Of course, they see that India and Japan are also included, but according to Americans, the 3 countries that could come together and end many global conflicts are Russia, China, and the US. Bringing these 3 countries into one group would be extremely difficult. G20 is a different case. Its objectives are very different. But if C5 is formed, then perhaps for the first time in history, all the world's major powers or important countries would come together to form a single group, and there would be a proper division of power among them. Many geopolitical analysts are even saying that this C5 is Trump's attempt to sideline the United Nations Security Council and create a new informal Security Council consisting of countries that actually matter. Now, when articles about C5 were published in Europe, European countries obviously became very angry because they were not included. From their perspective, they are the favored ones. If you look at the current setup of the UN Security Council, how many European countries are there? There are 5 permanent members: the USA, the UK, China, Russia, and France. France is European. Russia is partly European and partly Asian. You could also count Russia as European. The UK is European. They feel that at one time Europe had so much dominance in the world's main decision-making body, the Human Security Council, where they had permanent membership. Now, in this new C5, neither France nor the UK is included. That means Europe's representation would basically be only through Russia. Because of this, the concept of C5 is being viewed very critically in Europe. That is why it is being said that the USA is currently rejecting all official reports that claim they are working on C5. Now you might ask, how did this idea of C5 even come out? On what basis are so many articles being published? When did this concept first appear? Well, I'll tell you. And it has a very interesting story. Recently, the United States of America published a document. In the world of geopolitics, you could say there are only a few documents that receive as much attention as the US National Security Document. This document explains whom the US considers an enemy, which country it considers a friend, and which country is a challenge. In this year's National Security Strategy, the USA published many changes. The entire document is very large, 33 pages in total. Here you can see all the challenges facing the USA, all the opportunities, everything is written here. If I tell you the main points, first, the strategy states that Russia is not a direct threat to the USA. Previous governments had clearly labeled Russia as a direct threat to the United States. That has changed. Obviously, the Kremlin, where the Russian government sits, said this is very good and welcomed it. And again, the accusations against Trump that he is Krasnov, that he is very pro-Russia, do not go away. In Europe, many people are saying that this document criticizes Europe and says that Europe is blocking peace in Ukraine. So Russia is very happy after seeing this document. India is described as an ally against China. The US is clear about India's utility. Again, the US does not see India as a civilizational partner. Listen carefully. Countries like the UK or Canada are seen as civilizational partners, meaning long-term partners. India is positioned as someone to deal with China. And again, I would say for both India and China, the biggest blunder would be fighting each other. The USA says in its strategy that India is an ally against China and the trade with India needs to be boosted. Pakistan is barely mentioned, almost dismissed. But at the same time, I don't take this document very seriously. Why? Because many drafts of this strategy were released before the final version. Drafts are preliminary papers made before the official document. So many drafts leaked into the media that by the time the main document came out, nobody took it very seriously, especially because there is a big difference between Donald Trump's words and actions. He says one thing and does the complete opposite. What happened was that when the media studied one of the older drafts, people were shocked to see that it mentioned a new group, one nobody had even heard of. But Donald Trump was interested in it. The strategy proposed Core 5 C5, made up of the US, China, Russia, India, and Japan, countries with populations of over 100 million. If this group were formed, it would meet regularly like the G7, with summits focused on specific themes. The first proposed agenda was Middle East security, specifically normalizing relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Basically, Trump believed he would create C5 and then, one by one, this group would solve the world's biggest problems. The first issue would be normalizing Israel-Saudi Arabia relations. You can imagine the impact when India, China, and Russia are standing together. Japan doesn't matter much in the Saudi case, but when India, China, and Russia are on one side, it has a major impact on both Saudi Arabia and even Israel. But clearly, Europeans would have had a big problem with this. When they saw the draft and realized Trump's plans, the officially published national security document removed any mention of C5. Now, if you ask White House officials about C5, they say, that was just a draft. Drafts keep changing. Look at the official document. So I won't say this group is definitely being formed. It won't come into existence overnight. But it is Trump's concept, an idea in his mind. If you ask me whether C5 would work, it's doubtful. Anyone with basic common sense would say it wouldn't. Russia and China want to challenge US hegemony. What the USA should have done was strengthen the Quad. Instead, Trump's bizarre decisions, who knows who advised him, have handed China many victories. Today, what Xi Jinping says carries more weight than what Donald Trump says. People think Trump can say anything, tweet anything. When a country's main leader isn't taken seriously, how can the country be taken seriously? So C5 as a concept is very interesting. Maybe it even forms and holds summits for a few years. But how will it be sustained long term? Especially when Russia-Ukraine war is ongoing, Taiwan issue is looming, Russia border disputes exist, India-China border disputes exist. How will it work? Eventually, some clarity will emerge. We will have to see whether the Core 5 idea is genuinely implemented or remains just an idea. Years later, humanity may think, if only Core 5 had been formed, many wars could have been prevented. I am personally following this topic closely. I want to know your opinion. Do you support the idea of Core 5, or do you think it is senseless and won't work? Write your thoughts in the comments, and do subscribe for more updates.